Gooners, first of all, Merry Christmas. And if you're watching this, liking, commenting, or sharing, or just listening to this after your nice Christmas meal, I do want to say thank you. I appreciate it. This channel doesn't work without you guys. So I do appreciate all of you that keep coming back as well. We'll be doing our Arsenal versus Brighton preview. And just like how I always start the previews, I've got a question here. After Wolves at home, a game we did not enjoy, and grinding out an away victory at Everton, after juggling the cup, injuries, all the negative press and bias that follows Arsenal, as we march towards what we ultimately want to do. What does the proper title challenge respond look like? Because Brighton are coming to the Emirates not to come and admire the decorations. They're going to come and test Arsenal's patience. And if Arsenal win this game by 1 goal to nil, does that say anything negative about Arsenal? Does that say that Arsenal are on the verge of collapse, or is this what title-winning teams do in December, where you amass the point and then you worry about the performance later? I'm going to break down this game and especially, just point out my other video about what it would take for Arsenal to win the title, where this game actually fits into that framework. So let's break it down. Let's look into it. Okay, so let's ground this first. Arsenal won against Wolves and Everton. So after those wins, Arsenal are on track, right? In the 90 points roadmap in order to get to the Premier League title, this Brighton game sits in the bucket of manageable games because this is a home game against a team that you're going to require control. You're going to require an element of resisting the pressure. They are not just teams that are going to come and just roll over at home. So we've got to be smart here. And we've got to avoid emotional slip-ups at home. Everton away take, Wolves at home take. Not pretty, but done. So let's look at this Brighton team because on paper, Brighton are ninth right now in the Premier League. They've had 6 wins, 6 draws, and 5 losses, a goal difference of +2. But that's respectable. And Brighton has always been one of those teams that when they come to the Emirates, they tend to always play well. If you look at, last season, I think we drew against Brighton in both games. I remember the game away from home. Waneri scored a goal, and then we had that funny penalty with Joao Pedro's, and all of that, and they equalized, and that game came to a 1-1 draw. We cannot afford that in this game. If you look at Brighton's XG, they're currently around 26.5 to 27, and they've scored 25 goals, and their XG against sits around 21 to 22, and they've conceded 23 goals on both sides of the pitch. That's respectful, right? And it tells you that Brighton play well and they build well, and they struggle when games turn into moments. So the dominant possessions, they press aggressively, they rotate beautifully, and then they leave spaces where serious teams can actually punish them. And that's the tension in this match. Brighton will want to flow and want to impose themselves in this game, but can Arsenal wrestle the control? It's one thing that I noticed even in that game against Brighton in the cup, and let's be clear, this game is going to be nothing like what we saw in that cup game at the Emirates. It was a very changed side, and if you remember, Brighton had a couple of good chances in the first half of that game before Arsenal slowly took control. And that's going to be really, really important, in this game. Their biggest strength is also their biggest weakness, Brighton. When you look at, where this game can be won, they do commit numbers forward a lot. A lot of their players like to run with the ball. You talk about Mitoma, you talk about Minter as well. They love to run with the ball, and their fullbacks also like to step high, and their midfield like to rotate aggressively as well. But the key thing is that they're very vulnerable centrally and in defensive transition. So this is where Arsenal's midfield is really, really going to be important. I expect the likes of Zubimendi to come back in there and his tempo and rise, to actually destabilize that midfield and create a lot of chaos there that would actually allow Arsenal to get the upper hand. Um, tempo, especially after the first press is beaten, is going to be key because Brighton are going to want to press Arsenal high up in the pitch, hoping that they can make mistakes from Arsenal. And we saw them take advantage of that a couple of times in the cup game. Arsenal have got to be worried about that because not worried, but we've got to be mindful about that because Brighton do like to set up traps. They play a little bit like Aston Villa when it comes to setting up traps and trying to pounce on those when they play Arsenal. For me, the midfield, like I said, is going to be really important in this game. Rice, Zubimendi, and Odegaard, who I expect to play, is going to be that control triangle for Arsenal. And Rice is going to be what he does, stop a lot of the counter, make a lot of interceptions, and Zubimendi just resets the rhythm. I expect Saliba to step up a few times, from that defense and also join in the passing attack as well. But Brighton don't lose games early. So this is going to be really key. A lot of their goals coming in the first half. So if Arsenal can manage that, especially in the first half, and then go into the second half with either a lead, I think this will bode well for Arsenal in this game. In terms of Arsenal lineup, I expect we should revert back to what seems to be our first team, Premier League squad. Calafiori on the left, Raya in goal, and Timber on the right. I expect Nkapia to come back in. I know there's been a couple of doubts, so probably not quite sure. It might be the same back four that we had against Crystal Palace in the cup. If Nkapia is not ready to go, with Timber and Calafiori in that back. So that's a bit of a question. We'll kind of see what happens when the press conferences go closer to the time. And recording this a few days before, the game. I think that back line should be sufficient, to do what we need. In the middle of the pack, we've already talked about the Rice, Subimendi, and Odegaard. I expect Trossard to come in back into the left, Gyökeres up top, and then Saka on the right. Marino will be on the bench. Martinelli, if he can, be fit, will come in. I do. It'd be interesting to see if Waneri, might be a player to come into this game. He's done well when he's played against Brighton, last season and even this season as well. So might be something that Mikel Arteta might want to consider. Although I think that the game for Waneri was really surprising because I thought that he might have had a shot of coming into that cup game, but he didn't. So it's a bit interesting with the Waneri side of things. For Brighton, I expect them to set up in a 4-2-3-1 formation. Verbruggen will be in goal. I expect Veldman, Donk to come back. Van Hecke, he's going to be someone that we really need to be mindful about, especially in set pieces. He's got a very good knack of arriving just at the right time, in those. Kadioglu, I expect him to also play. Ayari, Diego Gomez. I expect Diego Gomez to come in and play in the middle as well. Minte, Gruder, Mitoma, and most likely will be Welbeck if Welbeck can go. I think there was some doubts about Welbeck, but I suspect that he might actually play in this game. If not, then Rota might be coming up front. Like I said, Brighton are going to press. They're not going to sit in. But I think that this is a matchup that favors Arsenal. Like they say, styles makes fight, right? And I think this is a team that, if we play and we can set the tempo very early on in this game, I think we've got a good chance of actually, doing well in this game. Brighton are going to have the ball. There's no question about it. There's going to be spells where Brighton will have the ball. Brighton will test us and they will frustrate section of the crowd. So we're going to really need the crowd in this game to really carry Arsenal over the line. But I think over 90 minutes, I trust that with Saka, Odegaard, Gyökeres, and Arsenal second half control. And I want to say something about the second half control because I think people are beginning to paint the narrative right now. We've had a number of successive games where we've conceded in the very, very last couple of minutes in the match. You look at Sunderland, away, look at Aston Villa, even look at Wolves, and most recently against Crystal Palace. I don't want to say that that's a pattern, but it's something that we've got to absolutely be careful about because if this game, goes in 1-0, into the 80th minute, that Brighton are going to throw everything. And there are a team that are capable of piling the pressure if they have belief and if they believe that there is something in that game for them. And Arsenal have to be mindful about that. This is going to be one of those games that it's going to be tough to watch a little bit. And it seems like we're going to be saying that for a lot of these games in December because obviously we've got Aston Villa coming. But I think that for us, it's about the 3 points, nothing more. We get the 3 points and we move on while we try and work out how to make our system work with all the returning players that are coming in. I'm sure that's also, giving the coaches a little bit of, more work. But I mean, this is what they get paid the big bucks for because the more players that you've got coming in, you got to think about how they're going to fit in. Mikel Arteta calls them the finishers, the guys that come into the game and actually, get the job done. What system works best, and there's going to be a couple of pairings and chemistry that we're going to hit and miss because we've never had the opportunity to do that, going into the season. And this is the first opportunity that we're going to try those combinations. I'm talking about Jesus coming in, up front, seeing Merino, the temptation to put him up front as well. Gyökeres, what happens to him as he tries to get back his form as well? What about Eze? How does he fit into Arsenal's team? Do we play him in that 10? Do we drift him out to the left? These are all options, but they also create, challenges for the manager and the coaches to actually fit them in and still get production, right? Because we can't afford to take games off right now just because of what's happening in Man City. Like I said, we control our fate. If we do what we need to do, I think that we actually get the 3 points in this game. My prediction for this game, I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory. Um, I think that we score one in the first half and then another one in the second half. And I think, it'll be that kind of performance that, might be nervy, but I think we get the job done. 3 o'clock kickoff, which I actually think we do quite well with. So it should be an interesting one. Listen, guys, it's Christmas time. The league doesn't reward emotion in December. It just rewards discipline. So guys, drop your predictions below. Tell me what matters more to you in this game. Do you want, style? Do you want substance? Do you want just the 3 points? Put that in the comment section as well. And please don't forget to continue to like and subscribe, to the channel. I appreciate all of you. And whatever you do this Christmas week, enjoy yourself. And I want to say thank you, as well. I'll see you guys on the other side.